What if I told you that time has already gone back, but it went back the wrong way, and you simply didn't realize it? Think for a second. Don't try to answer quickly. Just remember that strange feeling that something repeated itself, but not exactly the same. As if a moment had happened before, only with a different detail. A look, a word, an object out of place. Too small to draw attention, but big enough to bother you. Have you ever experienced this? Maybe you ignored it, maybe you called it déjà vu, or you simply let it go because it seemed irrelevant. But what if it isn't? What if these small flaws are actually signs of something much bigger happening behind the scenes? Now imagine this. You wake up, go about your day normally. Everything seems the same people, the same places, the same routines. But at some point, something doesn't fit. A detail out of the ordinary, a memory that doesn't match someone else's, an event that should be impossible, but happened anyway. This isn't just strange, this is a type of glitch. And when these glitches start appearing more frequently, they cease to be a coincidence. There's a somewhat unsettling idea that few people actually stop to consider. What if time isn't continuous as we believe? What if it could break, fail, or even restart? And worse, what if this has already happened? What you're about to discover might surprise you, because we're not just talking about theory or fiction. We're talking about that unsettling feeling that reality sometimes seems out of alignment, as if something has been hastily adjusted, as if the world has been recharged. But not perfectly. Stay with me until the end, because the more attention you pay to these patterns, the harder it becomes to ignore them. Think about the times you were absolutely certain of something, absolutely certain, and then discovered you were wrong. Not just you, but several people at the same time. As if one version of reality had been replaced by another. As if memories weren't synchronized with what truly exists now. Doesn't that bother you? Because it should? Most people simply move on. They accept it. They adapt. But some begin to understand. They begin to connect the dots. They begin to sense that there is a flaw, happening silent, subtle, almost invisible. And that's where things get really weird. Because these mistakes don't appear out of nowhere. They leave traces. Small signs scattered throughout everyday life. Simple things, but things that shouldn't happen if everything were working as it should. What if time had been forced to go back? Not like in movies, with explosions or grand events, but subtly, invisibly, like a system trying to correct a mistake, and failing. What if you were living within that imperfect correction right now? Take a deep breath, and pay attention, because from this point on, the details start to matter more than ever. And perhaps that's exactly why so many people prefer not to look closely. That the moment you start to realize it, it becomes impossible to unsee. And I know this might seem strange and uncomfortable, but this is precisely where things start to get interesting. Because the more people share these small flaws, the more this pattern ceases to be individual, and begins to seem collective. So tell me something, really? Have you ever had an experience like that? A time when something just didn't make sense, but you couldn't explain it? If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below, describing what has resonated with you the most so far. It could be a feeling, a strange memory, or even something you've never had the courage to tell anyone. Sometimes, what seems isolated is actually more common than we imagine. And this matters more than it seems. Because when you comment, you're not just participating. You're helping to put this puzzle together. Other people read it, identify with it, remember things that were forgotten. And, little by little, we begin to see patterns that previously went unnoticed. Your participation here is what keeps this type of content alive. If you feel this topic captivates you, makes you think, or even leaves you with that strange feeling that's hard to explain, leave a like. It may seem simple, but it shows that this type of content needs to continue being explored. And if you want to delve deeper into these ideas, better understanding these glitches, these paradoxes, these possible flaws in realities, subscribe to the channel, because what we're starting here is far from over. There is much that has not yet been said, and perhaps some of them should never have been discovered. Because from the moment you start connecting those signals, reality ceases to seem as stable as before. I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we start observing more closely, these small errors cease to seem like coincidences, and begin to reveal behind-the-scenes aspects that are normally hidden from our perception. It's as if there's an invisible layer of reality, a kind of silent structure that, from time to time, fails, and lets signs slip through. And these signs are not random. They appear at specific moments, almost like breaking points, situations where your decisions don't seem to lead to the expected result, or when a simple choice creates a disproportionate impact, as if something had been recalculated along the way. This completely changes how you view your own journey, because if time has truly been interfered with in some way, then your timeline of experiences may not be as continuous as you believe. There may be cuts, adjustments, small corrections happening outside your field of vision, and that's where an even more uncomfortable idea comes in. What if your memory isn't a completely reliable source? Think about it. How many times have you been absolutely certain about something, only to later realize that the details didn't match up? This isn't just distraction. It could be a reflection of a reality that has undergone a transformation, subtle but enough to alter how you interpret what you've experienced. And perhaps the hidden truth here isn't about time itself, but it's about how we perceive time, because, ultimately, everything depends on your awareness, on the way you observe, interpret, and connect events. And when that perception begins to change, the world around you changes along with it. Not in an obvious way, but in the details, according to standards, in the small deviations that almost no one notices, but that are there, all the time. And the more you realize this, the harder it becomes to ignore the feeling that something is happening behind the scenes. Something that hasn't been fully revealed yet. Comment below. Does this make sense to me? In the Ago, we want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the first signs are almost never obvious. They are subtle, silent, and that's precisely why they go unnoticed by most people. It's not something that dramatically breaks reality, it's more like a slight misalignment, a detail out of place that you feel even before you can explain it. You know when you walk into a room and get the feeling that something has changed, even without knowing what. Or when you swear you left an object somewhere, but it's simply not there anymore. And the strangest thing isn't that the object has disappeared, it's the feeling that it's happened before. Almost the same, but not exactly. This doesn't just seem like a distraction. This seems standard, and patterns indicate structure. These little glitches start like this, almost invisible. A phrase someone says differently than you remembered. A simple event that repeats itself with minimal variation. A decision that should lead to a predictable result, but doesn't. And at that point, something begins to change in your mindset. You stop reacting automatically and start observing. And the more you observe, the more these signs appear. Not because they started now, but because you began to see them. As if your perception had undergone a silent transformation, revealing behind-the-scenes aspects that were always there. And this has a direct impact on how you interpret reality. Because if these errors exist, then the idea of linear, stable, and continuous time begins to weaken. And in its place, something much more unstable emerges. Much more unpredictable. A structure that can fail. A sequence that can be changed. And a timeline that may not be as fixed as it seems. And the most unsettling thing about all of this is that these signs don't ask for attention. They're testing whether you're paying attention. Write this down. I understand the signs. Is that now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because these small signs you've begun to notice don't appear by chance. They're like clues left behind the scenes of reality itself, indicating that something is happening behind what we see every day. And it's precisely at this point that the initial theory begins to take shape. What if time weren't linear as we believe? What if it could fragment, repeat moments, or even undergo subtle alterations, like a program being adjusted without us realizing it? Your mindset changes when you accept this possibility. What once seemed like simple coincidence or distraction now transforms into a series of interconnected events, each with slight variations that indicate a hidden truth. And when you begin to observe carefully, you realize that decisions you made, even small, seemingly unimportant ones, may have generated impacts that defy the very logic of everyday life. It's as if each choice is embedded in a hidden layer of possibilities, where what happened, what you remember, and what seems real don't always align. And that's where the most disconcerting revelations come in. Because when perception begins to adjust, you start to notice patterns that previously went unnoticed. People acting slightly differently, events repeating themselves with subtle alterations, or memories that don't match what should have happened. Each detail becomes a piece of a larger puzzle, a silent transformation of your understanding of what is real and what is imperceptibly altered. And the impact of this on your journey is profound. You begin to question not only the events around you, but also the very reliability of your memories and interpretations. That's when paying attention to the behind-the-scenes aspects of reality becomes a powerful and, at the same time, unsettling tool, because when you perceive these flaws, your view of life changes. And the sense of stability you had slowly disappears, giving way to something much more complex and fascinating. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, helping others connect with these ideas and explore these layers of perception that would normally go unnoticed. He comments there. I am also on that journey. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because, as you begin to notice these small flaws, the strangeness not only increases, but multiplies. What once seemed like coincidence now reveals itself as an almost imperceptible, yet consistent pattern that runs through different moments of your day. Objects change places without explanation. Conversations seem to repeat passages with different words. And familiar events begin to present subtle variations, almost as if the world were being readjusted right before your eyes. That's when perception changes. You're not just observing what happens, but also perceiving the difference between what should happen and what actually happens. Each small deviation creates a feeling of unease that is both fascinating and unsettling, as if you were witnessing the behind the scenes of something much bigger than you imagined. And the more you notice these details, the more you realize that your decisions, even the simplest ones, may be part of a sequence of events that don't follow the logic you know. It's as if each choice has invisible consequences, altering not only the present but also how subsequent moments unfold. This perception transforms your mindset. You begin to question not only the events but also the very reality that seems familiar. And the more you question, the more these inconsistencies become evident, revealing layers of hidden truth that almost no one notices. The impact of this on your journey is profound. It's not just about curiosity or theory, it's a silent transformation in how you interpret the world, and at the same time, it creates an invisible sense of community. Because when you share your observations, you connect with other people who also notice these flaws and begin to perceive patterns that previously went unnoticed. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, because each comment, each shared experience, helps build this collective understanding of reality in layers. Comment below. I feel something different. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point when these small signs and inconsistencies cease to be mere strange details and begin to converge into something larger, almost palpable. It's as if suddenly, a unique event emerges to confirm everything you've been feeling, a kind of trigger that reveals the true extent of the flaws in reality. And it's not something grand or dramatic, but something subtle and powerful. A moment that breaks the pattern of daily life and exposes, even if only for an instant, that time may have been interfered with, that the sequence of events you considered reliable may have been altered, and at that point, perception changes almost irreversibly. You begin to notice that your memories aren't as linear as you imagined, that some decisions seem to lead to impossible results, and that certain coincidences aren't coincidences at all. It's as if there's an invisible map, a set of silent rules governing the backstage of reality, and which sometimes fail in ways that only those attentive to detail can perceive. Every action, every choice, every observation becomes part of a larger puzzle, and the impact on your mindset is profound. The feeling of stability disappears, replaced by a mixture of fascination and unease, and it is precisely at this point that the journey begins to transform. Because from the moment you perceive the main event, the one that clearly shows that something in time went wrong, you understand that you are dealing with a hidden truth, with revelations that change the way you interpret everything around you. And the more you connect with these experiences, the more you realize that you are not alone in this perception, that other people also notice these flaws, and that your attention is part of an invisible network of shared consciousness. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, helping more and more people to perceive these signs and question their own perception of reality. Comment below. This awakens something in me. I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because, after the main event occurs, reality begins to show consequences that almost no one notices, but which silently impact your perception. These aren't obvious effects, like dramatic visual changes or events that everyone notices, but rather small distortions in routine, subtle alterations that affect your mind without warning. An object that should be in one place appears in another, a phrase you remember differently from how someone said it, memories that don't seem to fit together. It's these details that reveal the fragility of what we consider normal, and it's at this point that the mental transformation begins to intensify. Every decision made after that point carries a different weight, as if time itself were observing and recalculating the next steps of your journey. Perception sharpens, and you begin to notice patterns that previously seemed random, connections between events that no one else would see. The impact of this is not just psychological, it's as if you were accessing the backstage of reality, a hidden space where small flaws and adjustments happen without most people noticing. And that's where the hidden truth reveals itself in the most intriguing way. The more you perceive these invisible consequences, the more you understand that the world you believe to be fixed is constantly transforming, even in the most ordinary moments. This changes how you make decisions, how you evaluate experiences, and even how you interpret memories, because every detail has the potential to alter your perception of the entire sequence of events. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Because when you share your experiences, opinions, and insights, you help others connect with these discoveries, creating a broader network of awareness and perception. Comment below. I notice the details. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we begin to observe closely, it's not just perception that changes, concrete evidence emerges. Small pieces of proof that something is truly happening outside of what we call normality. These aren't spectacular or dramatic events, but subtle details that, when pieced together, create a sequence impossible to ignore. An object that should remain static suddenly appears in a different place, a conversation you remember differently from how it actually happened, or a memory that doesn't match other people's versions. Each of these small signs acts as a silent tracker, revealing that time or the sequence of events itself may have been altered in some way. And when this evidence begins to accumulate, the psychological impact intensifies. You realize that your decisions, even the most trivial ones, may be embedded in a chain of events that doesn't follow a predictable linear logic. Every detail, every seemingly insignificant variation, reveals a hidden structure behind what you believe to be real, as if you were witnessing the behind-the-scenes workings of reality itself. And it is precisely this perception that transforms your mindset, making you question not only what you see, but also what you feel, remember, and interpret. What makes it all the more fascinating is that this evidence doesn't appear to everyone in the same way. Some people ignore or rationalize it, while others, like you, begin to notice patterns. Small inconsistencies that connect and reveal a hidden truth. This connection between perception and reality creates a journey of continuous discovery, a silent but profoundly impactful process of transformation. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, because by sharing your observations and experiences, you help others perceive these nuances and question their own understanding of reality. Comment below, I see the evidence too. Good, now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when you start putting together all these small pieces of evidence and experiences, something bigger begins to reveal itself. A pattern that transcends individual perception and begins to touch on broader concepts about how time and reality work. It's not just about objects changing places or memories that don't match up, it's about understanding that every decision, every instant of your life, may be embedded in a sequence that doesn't follow the logic you believe. It's as if there are invisible layers, silent backstages that govern the flow of events, and every flaw you notice is a sign that these layers are becoming visible. This expansion of the concept completely transforms how you view your journey. What once seemed random now gains meaning. What seemed casual begins to reveal unexpected connections, and it's fascinating to realize that these connections affect not only the world around you, but also your mindset. You begin to observe your own decisions differently, recognizing subtle impacts that previously escaped your attention. It's a silent transformation process that affects perception, awareness, and even how you interpret your own experiences. And the more you connect with these ideas, the more you realize that reality is not a straight line, but a complex fabric, full of detours, repetitions, and variations that defy everyday logic. Every detail, every perceived inconsistency, is a piece of this puzzle, showing that the hidden truth is always present, even if only a few manage to notice it. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, because by sharing your own experiences and insights, you help build a network of awareness that broadens everyone's understanding of these invisible and fascinating patterns. Comment below. I can see Beyond Emagway want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when you observe everything that has happened so far, you realize that these flaws, glitches, and pieces of evidence are not just isolated curiosities, they leave a profound impact on how you perceive reality itself. There is something fascinating and, at the same time, unsettling in realizing that time, as you know it, may not be as rigid as you believed. Every detail that seems small or unimportant begins to gain weight, showing that our experiences, decisions, and memories are embedded in a much more complex web than we imagine. It is a silent transformation of perception that shakes your mindset and provokes reflections on everything you consider certain, predictable, or definitive. And this effect goes beyond simple observations. It challenges the way you interpret everyday events, making you question whether everything you remember or perceived really happened that way, or if there are invisible layers operating behind the scenes of your own journey. Each insight, each sharper perception, acts as a lens that magnifies details that previously went unnoticed, revealing subtle connections between events, choices, and impacts that intertwine in an almost imperceptible way. And the more you allow yourself to notice these nuances, the more you realize that the hidden truth isn't hidden forever. It reveals itself to those who are attentive. And understanding this dynamic transforms not only what you see, but also how you feel, decide, and interpret each moment. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Because when you share your experiences and reflections, you help others perceive these signs and question their own perceptions. Comment below. I feel reality is getting worse. Over. Yes, you've made it this far, which shows you've managed to dive headfirst into this universe of perceptions, glitches, and hidden truths. This kind of reflection isn't easy to find elsewhere, and that's precisely why every comment, every interaction, makes all the difference. So, if this content resonated with you, leave a comment saying, "I'm with you until the end." It'll be amazing to see who followed every detail of this journey. And since we're connected in this exploration, take the opportunity to like the video. It's not just a click, it's a way to reinforce the energy we put into this conversation, showing that this type of content really makes a difference in your perception and in the way you see the world. And if you want to continue exploring these layers of reality, there's a video over here that complements this topic. Click and continue with me there. The journey doesn't end now, and what you're about to discover may further change the way you see everything around you.